States love to claim they are working to make you financially free. They talk about stability, growth, opportunity. But when you look closely at history, you see something much darker. Governments have always used secret financial tricks to keep wealth and power for themselves while driving ordinary people into bankruptcy. And the astonishing thing is, these tricks aren't new. They've been repeated for centuries, repackaged under new names, always with the same goal: to pull wealth upward while keeping the majority dependent and controlled. Let's begin with one of the oldest and simplest tricks: inflation. When a state spends more than it can collect through taxes, it has two options. It can face the truth and openly demand more taxes from the population, politically risky. Or it can secretly reduce the value of the currency so that every coin and note in circulation loses value without people noticing immediately. Ancient Rome perfected this method. In the 3rd century AD, as emperors struggled with military costs, they began reducing the silver content of the denarius. What were once nearly pure silver coins became mostly copper with only a thin silver coating. The empire pretended nothing had changed, but everyone using those coins paid the price. Inflation soared, savings evaporated, and wages couldn't keep up. It was a silent tax on the people, the same trick we see today, only now the imperial mints have been replaced by central banks. Those who refused risked fines, confiscation, or worse. Sometimes the crown prom in the Middle Ages. The same scheme took another form: forced loans. Rulers in England, France, and Spain compelled wealthy merchants and guilds to lend money to the king. Voluntary? Of course not. Iced repayment with interest, but repayments often came too late, in debased currency, or not at all. While the state financed its wars and palaces, merchants had little choice. Capital, wrapped in patriotic or duty-laced language, was extracted by force. And it worked for centuries. In the 19th century, the financial system itself became the trick. The founding of the Bank of England in 1694 was not about public good or patriotism, but about the need to wage war against France. Wealthy investors bought government bonds, and the state guaranteed interest payments financed through taxes. It sounded like a fair deal, but who paid those taxes? Ordinary people, through levies on salt, beer, and fabrics. The rich lent money to the state and received safe returns. The masses funded those returns through higher taxes. It was a system of wealth transfer under the guise of national finance, and it worked. It cemented an idea still believed today: government bonds are the safest investment, and their yields are guaranteed by the labor and spending of the masses. Look at the modern world, the tricks are everywhere. Consider public spending. States take on debt by selling projects to investors, banks, and foreign powers. Politicians claim the money funds infrastructure, jobs, or social programs. But a large portion flows to the arms industry, manufacturers, corporate subsidies, and bailouts. When repayment comes due, the state doesn't cut elite consumption. Instead, it raises taxes, devalues the currency, or cuts social programs. The manipulation lies in presenting debt as for the people, while the burden lands on the people and the profits stay with the wealthy. Then there are bailouts. During the 2008 financial crisis, banks took massive risks, turned toxic mortgages into securities, and brought the global economy to the brink of collapse. Who paid the price? Once again, ordinary taxpayers, through massive government rescues. Who profited afterward? The same banks, often larger and more powerful than before. The logic was simple: privatize profits, socialize losses. People were told it was to save the system. And it worked. Even the way states handle pensions is a trick. In countries like the US, the UK, and across Europe, people pay into state-run systems for decades and trust the money will be there when they retire. But states rarely save this money, they spend it and plug the gap with government bonds. The promise is that future taxpayers will foot the bill, effectively a cross-generational Ponzi scheme disguised in official language. It holds, until demographics and aging tip the balance. Then come cuts, higher retirement ages, or increased burdens. The core point is, deception thrives on perception. Inflation becomes growth, forced loans become duties, government debt becomes an investment promise, bailouts become stability, pension cuts become reforms. Language masks reality, wealth flows from the many to the few, from the ordinary to the elite. History shows these tricks work because most people don't study economic history, don't understand financial systems, and recognize the trap only when it's too late. In recent years, the tricks have become even more complex. Consider quantitative easing, a term almost nobody knew before 2008. Central banks bought government bonds and mortgage-backed securities, creating trillions of dollars from nothing to stabilize markets. Politicians and bankers said it was necessary to prevent collapse. And as it worked, asset prices soared, stocks, real estate, bonds skyrocketed. But who owned most of these assets? The wealthy. For the average household, benefits were minimal, while downsides appeared in distorted markets and rising living costs. The real trick: money creation became a rescue for the upper class, while everyone else got inflation and inequality. Another modern tactic is hidden taxation. States use income taxes, consumption taxes, energy taxes, and especially inflation, as covert tax sources. When prices rise faster than wages, the gap acts like an invisible levy on savings and purchasing power. Governments love inflation because it reduces the real value of their debt, but it destroys financial freedom for citizens. If your salary rises nominally, you may feel richer, but if your expenses outgrow your income, wealth is being stolen from you. But this isn't a flaw in the system. It is the system. Inflation isn't an accident of economics, it's one of the oldest tricks governments use to shift their spending burdens onto the population. Add to that the capture of regulatory institutions. At first glance, regulations seem protective: financial standards, safety rules, consumer protections. But history repeatedly shows that powerful industries influence regulators. They're not there to punish, they become tools for eliminating competition and securing profits. In the 1800s, it was the railroads; in the 20th century, oil companies; today, technology and financial giants. It's like a miniature version of Peaky Blinders in the streets of Birmingham. Rather than fight chaos, it's better to get the referee on your side. People see protection, system leaders see profit. War financing is another ancient trick. During World Wars I and II, states sold war bonds under the guise of patriotic duty. People felt they were supporting the nation, and they were. But these bonds also became safe, profitable investments for the wealthy, guaranteed by future taxes. Even in the 21st century, the pattern continues. Trillions spent on wars in Iraq and Afghanistan were financed through debt, and the arms industry, banks, and bondholders profited, while ordinary taxpayers paid the bill. The trick is to sell wars as temporary necessities. The economic consequences last generations.
Why does this matter? Because these tricks are alive, and accelerating. Inflation eats your savings. Debt grows every year. Bailouts remain the reflexive response to market crashes. As central banks continue manipulating money supply, states shift costs so indirectly that most people don't see the links. In short, the system is designed so you work harder for less real wealth. And the system is becoming ever more stable, in its own favor.
The single biggest lesson from history is not just that these tricks exist, but that they keep states also use complexity as a weapon. Thousands of pages of tax codes, financial instruments only experts understand, secret clauses in budgets, all of it creates an environment where normal people can't trace the money. Confusion is camouflage. If you can't see where the money goes, you can't resist. Working. When ancient Rome debased its coins, citizens suffered. When rulers forced merchants into loans, they lost their wealth. When modern states accumulate debt and inflate, households suffer. Different eras, same method. And the bitter truth: most people never escape these tricks because they don't even realize they're being manipulated. They accept inflation as normal, view bailouts as mercy, and trust government explanations instead of studying economic history. And ignorance is the greatest trick of all. That's why elites and states prefer a financially illiterate population. Financial education is resistance. Economic history is a weapon. If you know the tricks, it's harder to be fooled, but not impossible. So, always look beyond the headlines. When the state announces a program, first ask, who benefits? When inflation rises, don't view it as bad luck, ask whether it was politically engineered. When regulations appear, check who wrote them and whose interests they serve. Then build real, resilient wealth, assets that hold value even when currency erodes. And never assume the system works for your benefit just because it claims to. Systems protect themselves, not necessarily the people. See. If this content gave you a new perspective, it's worth subscribing to the channel. There will be more videos like this. History holds the answers, and I will present them to you.